Hey, what's up, everybody? You know, what's funny is everybody gets asked the question of how did you get into the fandom? What attracted you? How did you become a brony, if you will, or how did you become a fan in general? What drew you to kind of have take a liking to the series, to the animated series and the overall franchise? And a lot of people will come up with answers. A lot of people will say it's the story overall. It's the uniqueness of the story. It's how the characters are developed. It's how the story arcs are done almost effortlessly, if you will. How the songs match up match up what's happening in the episode. How things don't seem to be so jumbled, so incoherent. Now, some might say that lately that's not the case, but as I've said before, there is an excuse in my opinion, and that is the fact that the writing staff is pulling double duty. The creative staff is pulling double duty because they're not only creating and writing episodes for the show, but they're also but they're also helping to create and write for the movie. So they're working on one thing on one end, and they're also working on. So basically, they got a lot on their plate. They're working on trying to make some good episodes for the series, while their attention is also divided over in the direction of the movie, and trying to make that good. But with that said, some may say, if you exclude the negativity the current season's getting, some will say that they love what's been happening. That basically the overall portrayal of the series, that basically the series overall tone, the characters, everything is what's attracting them. But what moments, though, a lot of people might ask as well. Sorry about that. The thing flew out of my hand. The mic, that is, the audio recorder. But anyway, some might ask, what moments? What really got you to watch the series? What really got you invested and made you say, hey, this might be pretty good after all if they're doing this? Well, for me, as crazy as it may sound, it's not just everything that, everything else people, liked. But what got me slowly into it was some of the funny moments, comedic moments and stuff. But what really got me becoming a fan, unbeknownst to myself at the time, what really got me into becoming a fan of the show was the relationship between Spike and Rarity, or as a lot of fans like to ship him as, Sparity. And the reason that's got me to start liking the show is because I'm thinking, wait a minute. Here's a dragon, and let's be honest, even though he seems to be just like a baby dragon and all that, and there are indications that he's only a few years old. I think I've mentioned this before. I think what I've mentioned is just because he's a few years old, we don't know in the eyes of the ponies, we don't know exactly his age as a dragon in general. It's kind of like with animals themselves. Kind of like with animals like dogs and cats. We know that when they're born, they're cute and everything, but when they become 1 year old, they've already full grown in a sense. But when a dog becomes 1 year old, they're actually becoming 7 years old. Same with a cat. A cat will grow from a kitten to a cat, and in 1 year become 1 year old, but in a sense will become 7 or 8 years old in their age demographic. Yeah. So when one takes a look at that, maybe from that perspective, and the way Spike acts, to me it seems that Spike could essentially be, even though he turned 1 year old, Spike could essentially be 12 or 13 years old. Yeah, 12, 13, or 15 years old. When you think about it, he could be legitimately that age in dragon years. In dragon years. Not necessarily in regular years. You know, in regular years, like I said, with ponies, he might just be a few years. Just like a human looks at an animal and says, well, she's 8 years, some might say, oh, well, all dogs 8, 7 years old. To us as humans, the animal is 7, 8 years old. But in their years, in their time span, they're actually older than that, even though they don't really act like that. A dog and a cat could be 7 years old to humans, but in reality are actually 49, 50 years old in their years, in their time span. So with that said, one can come out and say, well, what does that have to do with My Little Pony? Well, like I said, in friendship is magic, and a lot of people like to throw theories out there. Spike could essentially be, when one thinks about it, Spike essentially could be in his teens, in his mid to late teens, if not early 20s. Well, probably mid to late teens, early 20s, whatever you want to call it. But he may not seem like that. To anybody else. However, let's take a look at some hints. In the episode that basically has Spike finally at the end, in case nobody's seen it, kind of confess how he feels to Rarity, she does tear up, like she knows. She kind of quiets some tears up, and because she already knows. She knows that, because she feels the same way. But the problem is, the dragon and pony, right? And the other thing is, to people, eyewitnesses, Spike may not be old enough to be with Rarity. But here's the thing. To them, it's because Spike might be just a little too young to want to be with someone like Rarity. But in reality, he might be the right age according to dragon years. Yeah. Let's say the equivalent of dragon years, 1 year could be, let's say, 10 years. Then Spike's 10 years old, right? Or is the equivalent of 15 years or 13 years. Spike's in his teens after his first birthday. Okay, so that's 13 years added on. And then you go to another year, he gets older, and he ends up becoming what? 26? Now you might say, well, if they're doing that from time span kind of deal, he's ancient now. Time frame and let's put it this way. Real-time continuity doesn't really exist in this show. It's all within the same kind of time span. True, year after year we have another Christmas Carol-like episode, but it's always within the same obvious time span, if you catch my drift. And Spike just might be a small dragon anyway, for all we know. He wants to be big, but unfortunately the only way he grows big is out of greed. So we know that. But the point I'm trying to make is, he might be small, but that's maybe because that's how he's meant to be, a small dragon with a big heart. But maybe he's also meant, I could say he's a small dragon with a big heart. But maybe it's in a sense to kind of show that love, true love, knows no boundaries. Knows no age, knows no race, knows no difference, knows nothing of that. It's just that when two people or two creatures or characters feel the same way they do about each other, then it's meant to be. You want a good example of this, folks? Try Madagascar. In Madagascar 2, Escape to Africa, if somebody would have told you that after the first Madagascar ended, if somebody would have told you that in the sequel they were going to build towards a relationship between Gloria and I think what's his name, Melman? I think that's his name. I think what is it, Melman, I believe? That they were going to build towards that and have them be boyfriend and girlfriend. I don't think people would have believed you because this is supposed to be based on real animals, right? In a sense. In a sense. But if someone would have told you that, nobody would have believed you. But yet, what happened? It occurred. And it got built upon in the third movie. Now, here's another thing. If somebody would have told you when you saw Shrek, the first Shrek, that Donkey and Dragon were going to get together, after it was revealed she was a female dragon anyway, and he was going to end up with her, yeah, some people might say, yeah, it's probably going to happen. But if they would have said they're going to end up having kids at the end of the second film, nobody would have believed you, but it happened. But guess what? It happened. And if anybody was to tell you there's now a possibility that if a series or even a sequel was to happen for Zootopia, and it's already been hinted at in a sense that there's something between Judy and Nick, I think some people might agree with you on that one. But then again, some, with no disrespect, with all respect in the world to Matt Burnett, Animat, even though some, like Animat, with all due respect, may not believe that's possible and will happen, there's a lot that pretty much look at it like, you know what, there's a chance it would happen in the series or in a sequel to the movie. Heck, if anybody would have told you at the end of Frozen that with Frozen 2 coming around, or coming up soon, that people would be petitioning for Elsa to have a girlfriend instead of a boyfriend, making her the first lesbian princess in Disney history, as well as the girl that not only does her voice but her singing voice as well. Elle was actually behind and for it in a sense, and Dina Menzel. I'm sorry if I mispronounced her name. If they would have told you that she was for it in a way, if she was all for it in a sense, and there's now a possibility that it could happen, I don't think anybody would have believed you at the end of that. But then again, some might have believed you because of the fact that when Frozen came out, it was pretty much indicated, and you could look at some of the merchandise even up to today, that it was intended to be a movie that, in the eyes of some, it was secretly a romantic film focused on the incensed romance between the sisters, which it was not. It may have seemed like that, but it was not. But my point is, because I know you're wondering what this has to do with Spike and Rarity, my point is, if those possibilities can have and could happen, then there is a strong possibility Spike and Rarity will as well. Especially, like I said, if you want to throw in theories and all that and say, well, how can it be? It's quite simple. Again, a dragon's age could be the equivalent of a dog and a cat's age. A dog and a cat's age, to the human eye, like I said, differs from what they are in their time span. Like I said, you could have a dog that in the case of my dog, is 7 years old, going to be 8. Now, they're energetic and everything just like a 7 and 8-year-old should be. But as they get older, like I said, even though that might be the case, in their time span, their years, they're older than that. My dog right now is about 50 years old in dog years, but she still acts like a 7, 8-year-old kid because that's how her body is adjusted. You kind of get the idea, right? The same with cats. They're 7, they got a lot. In reality, me and my mom's cat, or my mom's cat initially, is going to be about 13 years old. And she still acts like a 13-year-old cat. But in reality, you times it by 7, and whatever. And yeah, you're looking at a cat that could be in her, let's see, 7 into 8 is 56. Now add 7 more to that, that's 69. 9. Add more to that, that's like 76. Add to that, it's 83. You kind of get the idea. Thing is, to us, animals might still be young enough to act very childish and playful, but the point is, they're at that age. You catch my drift. When I moved here to California, my mom's cat was initially about 4 years old. 4 years old. So when you take 9 years, if you will, was 3.5, 4 years old. So you take a look, 9 years, she's about 12 and a half going on 13. So, yeah. She was basically, from a 7-year perspective, about 20 years, 21 years old. Or 21 or 20 to 28 years old. So, you add a lot more to that. You add 7 into 28, 8 or into 20 or into 28, that's 35. You add that to another year, it's 42. Then 49, that's 3 years. 56, okay, 63, 70, 77, 84. She's about 91 in cat years, but she still acts like she's a kitten. You see, time goes by fast for animals in their time span. But the point is, getting back what I'm trying to say, when it comes to My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, and the whole Sparity shipping, the reason fans ship these two is due to the fact that they probably think the same way. Spike is probably old enough in dragon years to be with Rarity, even though from their perspective he doesn't look like it. Like I said, it goes back to the whole animal trope. An animal might be 7, 8 years old, 13 years old, and may not act that old or anything like that, but it's a fact. And they might act all and they might still be playful and wild, a little crazy, hyperactive and stuff. But the point is, in their time span, you add 7 to 8 more years. So if you take a look at it from a My Little Pony standpoint, in a dragon time span, Spike, in a sense, when he turned 1, could have turned 15, or 13 years old. We'll round it out around 13, 15, okay? Well, actually about 15. We'll average it out to that. So he's about 15. So if you add another, another 15 years, he's about 30, right? Or, if that's a little too old, you take a look at it and you average, 1 year equals adulthood, or teen years, right? So he could average it out and be like 7 years, or not 7, but 10 years makes him, or 13 years makes him 14. So another year or so makes him about, let's say, it makes him about 14, right? So another couple of years makes him about what? 28? Or if you want to average it from 12-year perspective, you're looking at him being 12, maybe 24. The point is, in Dragon Age, he's probably old enough to be with Rarity. But the question I think that gets people is, why hasn't Hasbro pulled the trigger? Why haven't the creative staff behind the show pulled that trigger? Why haven't they gone and done it? Why haven't they said, okay, let's make it official? I think there's many aspects to it. You take a look at the fact that they introduced a new character in Ember, a female dragon, who's not as small, just a little taller, but she is a small dragon. But basically, she's more statuesque than Spike, and already you got fans shipping her and Spike together. Then, on the other side of things, you have some moments between Starlight Glimmer and Spike from this season, and you got fans shipping that. So my indication, my thought process, my theory, my opinion on it is I believe, in my opinion, I believe that the people behind the series still know about the Spike Rarity shipping, but have not done it yet because they want to tease other possibilities for Spike and as well as Rarity. They want to probably tease the potential of a Spike Starlight shipping. They want to tease the potential of a Spike Ember, Spike Ember shipping. I mean, heck, as far as season 2, there was an episode. What was it called? The Cutie Mark Pox or something like that. The Cutie Pox Marks or whatever. And there's a scene where one of the Cutie Crusaders does some kind of trick with a hula hoop or some kind of ring. It circles off Twilight's horn, and it ends up turning her, and ends up basically by doing so changing Twilight's hairstyle into a style similar to a hairstyle identical to Rarity's. Yeah, basically one of the, I think what was it, Apple Bloom I think it was, does a little ring toss, throws a ring, sort of like a ring toss, it, lands on Twilight's horn and kind of, lands dead center on Twilight's horn, then flies off, and after it does, but not before, it basically changes Twilight's hairstyle to be identical to Rarity's. And Spike, noticing this, gets an attraction towards essentially his big sister, if you will. But the point is, you even have fans back then teasing or wanting to ship those two because of that. But what I'm trying to get at is this. Spike and Rarity's relationship, especially the fact that here you have an attractive pony in Rarity actually acknowledging the feelings that Spike has for her and vice versa. But here you, vice versa, and when you think about it, it's almost along the equivalization, or it's almost along the lines of that equivalent of the underdog, the nerd, the goofball, whatever, getting the hot girl for his girlfriend. Getting the attractive hot girl for his girlfriend, something nobody thought would happen, but yet it happens. But I think, even though we pretty much know it's happening, Hasbro and the people behind the series have yet to make it official. But that's what attracted me, because I look at the fact that when I would go through high school and stuff, that guys like myself, we would be attracted to some of the beautiful girls in our class as well as some of the girls in the other classes, but never would think they'd want to dance with us or be our friends or anything like that. And yet they did. I had several attractive girls in my class, in classes that were higher than me and stuff, and even lower, that wanted to be my friends. And actually danced with me at several dances. So I was actually happy about that, and that's what attracted me in a sense, and that's basically why this relationship, or this thing between this whole Sparity shipping, is what attracted me in the first place to MLP. Yeah, at times it was out of respect or an acknowledgement for the barriers that is broken down. And also from a nostalgic standpoint, because I used to watch G1 in a sense at times. So it was out of all that, but it was also out of the fact that you had these funny moments. You had people talking to how good the story arc was, and that you got to tune into the next one, That's what slowly started to drive me into that direction of being a brony, even though I didn't think it was going to happen. But it all started, I'll be honest with you, when the whole Spike Rarity thing was acknowledged. And to me, I said it before and I'll say it again, Hasbro and the people behind the show need to either, you know, blank or get off the pot when it comes to these two. You either got to make it official in some way, or just leave it be, and leave it be and have it acknowledged that they're just going to be friends with an attraction with each other, to each other, with an attraction towards each other, but they're now going to be with other characters. I think you either got to blink or get off the pot and make these two an official couple, especially with the fact that the show is coming to an end. We just don't know when or where. We know it's going to be several more seasons. It's going to have. We know that. We know it's going to have several more seasons. And with the movie coming around, I think with all that happening, they either got to blank or get off the pot and make these two an official couple, make this shipping a reality, or go in a direction that acknowledges they're still attracted to each other even though they're friends and they're going to end up with other people, other characters. So to me, that's what needs to happen. The Rarity Spike relationship needs to be made official. Hasbro needs to make it happen. And that's all I'm going to say. So hashtag SpikexRarity. Hashtag Sparity for Hasbro and those in charge of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic to make it happen. So let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. I am out.